Good Thursday morning, Patriots. Welcome back to O'Connor's Right Stand, the show where we call it straight, crank the heat, and never let politicians off easy. I'm John O'Connor, programmer by day, patriot by night. If you're new here, welcome, and buckle up. If you're a regular, throw me a DM on X at O'Connor Stand, because your feedback, your rants, and raves keep this show honest. And before we toast to today's chaos, yes, I'm still testing out this new format. 2 times per week, snappier, leaner, meaner. Are you loving it or hating it? I do want to know. Let's talk about the spicy, because the Democrats are basically human wasabi right now, except with less flavor and far more heartburn. If you've ever seen a party snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, buckle up. This is the kind of collapse that would make even a New York Knicks or Minnesota Vikings fan say, ouch, that's rough. And I'm a fan of both of those teams, so I can say that. We're going deep today. The polling freefall, the scandals they wish no one saw, Biden's cover-up Olympics, infighting that makes high school cafeteria politics seem civil, and my favorite, a Gen Z rebellion that looks ready to storm the DNC gates armed with nothing but TikTok memes and rage. Grab your coffee, pour that bourbon, or just clutch your emotional support stress ball as we turn up the heat and expose the grand dumpster fire that is today's Democratic Party. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. This is O'Connor's Right Stand. All right. Let's start by looking at the scoreboard. And it is ugly. And as you can tell, I'm enjoying this. Latest polling isn't just bad, it's catastrophic. Democratic Party favorability has cratered to 27, sometimes 26% in national surveys. That's barely above getting a root canal and just shy of a cable company's customer service on the popularity scale. Think about it. Less than 1 in 3 Americans are giving the Democrats a passing grade. It's more like 1 in 4. Not even the people cashing DNC checks look genuinely happy right now. This isn't just some blip. The Gallup folks said this month that Democratic Party favorability has reached its lowest sustained level in 3 decades, and I quote, Pew confirms it, the largest single-year drop in the party trust since the Clinton impeachment. You'd have to get a time machine and find a blockbuster video to see numbers this vintage. Why? Because from coast to coast, the Dems are out of step. Remember when Obama's party flirted with 55% favorability? When blue was a total vibe? Now those same voters are texting. Let's break it down. Working class voters say Dems are too busy virtual signaling on Twitter and not fighting for take-home pay. Black and Hispanic support, once a lock, has been quietly slipping for years. And the youth vote? Let's just say TikTok has seen more enthusiasm for physique-challenged cats than for Chuck Schumer. November 2024 should have been their year. A post-Dobbs backlash, economic unrest, a supposed blue wall. Instead, Michigan, gone. Wisconsin, flipped. Pennsylvania, redder than ketchup. Not only did they lose Congress, but they lost New York's 17th district to a man who campaigned from his ice fishing hut. But wait, don't blame just the voters. Look at the donor game. Wall Street's out here ghosting campaign managers faster than millennials ghost on dating apps. According to Politico, Democratic small donor donations are flatlining at levels not seen since 2014. Even Hollywood's checks are bouncing emotionally, if not actually. Who's left holding the bag? The same core boomer leaders who remember when TikTok was a sound a grandfather clock made. The same folks who post blurry photos on Facebook and think going viral is a bad thing involving chickens. To show you, I'm not making this up. Let's throw in some receipts. Quote from an actual Democratic voter at a June 2025 MSNBC open forum. And I quote, I haven't seen this party fight for us in years. It's like they're in their own clique, just talking to each other. They don't even speak our language anymore. And here's a gem from a Politico roundtable. They used to be working for the working class. Now it feels like they're only for the working class when it's time to make speeches at the convention. Now, let's get a flavor of this decline straight from the mouths of the disappointed. Here's a clip from MSNBC in New York having some unfavorable viewpoints on the Democratic Party and Chuck Schumer.
We're in New York. Chuck Schumer, of course, has been a senator here for a while.
Yeah.
In that room, when he was brought up, people booed.
Booed him, yeah.
That's not normal for Chuck Schumer in New York.
Not at all. I don't think what he did was likable, clearly. Was it the best move? I understand it, but we're bringing pillows to a knife fight, and nothing is helping.
So you see people on the street, and people on the street are mad. People on the street are passionate, and we're not seeing that from leadership at points. So there are leaders out there that are fighting that fight, and there are leaders out there that are that same old model of let's comply and complain.
Comply and complain, I think, is one of those lasting statements that, for me, I'm going to keep track of. Because voters that I was talking to there and at other town halls, I've said, well, what would enough be? What do you need to see? And I think people realize that Democrats are in the minority, but they just want to see some fight, some creativity, and they don't feel they're getting that yet.
That's not me. That's their own base, folks. And when you got MSNBC having a panel of people, and I didn't show all that, but when you have MSNBC covering this, it's gotten bad. Let's shift gears from the numbers to the main event. Biden's great Democratic disappearing act. Let's be unflinchingly honest. Joe Biden didn't just have a bad year. He's become the poster child for, we don't talk about Bruno. Only in this party, everyone is supposed to pretend the emperors got cool new clothes. Remember those early whispers back in 2023 and 2024? Stories about Joe mixing up names, freezing mid-sentence, losing his orientation during live events. The press treated it like Republicans were doing deep fakes. For real. CNN's panel would say, well, people get tired, okay? We all lose our car keys, right? And I quoted that. I'm sorry. My grandma would lose her car keys. She's not running the free world. Behind closed doors, party insiders knew the truth. This is a bombshell from Axios, of all places. And I quote, multiple Democratic donors and operatives admitted off the record they blocked any primary challenge discussions through 2024 out of loyalty to the Biden legacy, even as concerns mounted, unquote. Let's be clear, this was not just protect the president. This was a coordinated code of silence. The DNC, senior campaign staff, and even family members, Hunter, Jill, and maybe Major the dog, for all we know, closed ranks. Any talk of a contested primary was called sabotage. And the media? No pushback. Reporters told us not to give the right wing any ammo, wrote a frustrated ABC staffer in a New Republic op-ed. Even when we heard credible stories, it wasn't journalism, it was damage control. But nothing can plug a sinking ship long term. Summer 2024, debate night. Biden, glassy-eyed, fumbling his notes, losing lines. If that wasn't a red flag, I don't know what is. The aftermath was less. Rally the base and more CNN hosts frantically Googling how to change a running mate mid-campaign, a CBS producer tweeted. We all knew the White House was hiding the real story. We just didn't know how much they'd hidden it from us. Not to be outdone, The Guardian ran the headline, "The Emperor has no script, and now, no cover." The damage wasn't just to Biden or the midterms. The hit was systemic. Trust collapsed not only in individual leaders, but the whole apparatus. Young voters watch the DNC and CNN spin and say, if you can't be real about someone forgetting what state he's in, how can you be real about inflation, war, or jobs? Foreign journalists had a field day. Le Monde's editorial, if American politics is about performance, is it any wonder young people have lost faith when the show's understudy is never even allowed on stage? So what happens when you mix a fading leadership with a generation allergic to being ignored? You get the DNC's full-blown generational civil war. Picture the old heads in one corner clutching their Robert Rules of Order, and in the other, a wave of plugged-in, progressive, TikTok-powered activists ready to burn it down from the inside. Meet David Hogg, the youthful firebrand who's been through more real trauma by 25 than most congressmen have sleeping through committee hearings. In early 2025, Hogg tries to shake up the DNC, push primaries, put fresh faces in, challenge the Chuck and Nancy Club. The response? DNC's elders oust Hogg immediately from his vice chair seat in a closed-door meeting so secretive it makes Vatican conclaves look like the Apple product launches. The official reason? He undermined unity, quote-unquote. In DNC speak, unity equals geriatric monopoly. Cue the internet explosion. Hashtag Dems are dead. And hashtag DNC over party. Trend for most of a week. College newspapers run headline after headline. Party of the future has no room for the future. From a July New York Times campus roundup, and I quote, Democratic leadership acts like college students are the problem, not the solution. It's no surprise young turnout is in freefall. Internal DNC memos leaked to The Intercept show how panicked the elders are. One reads, if turnout among 18 to 24-year-olds falls below 30% in the midterms, we are in an existential danger. Let's be blunt. Gen Z isn't just cranky. They also know how to wield social media, boycott, and coordinate action. Even left-leaning magazines have lost patience. The Nation called it an institutional senior moment, I quote. Meanwhile, entrenched leaders keep reciting Libby Dole-era talking points while young progressives organize protest conventions, walkouts, and, most dangerous, start funding alternative parties. One more. A biting quote from David Hogg to Vox. They say the future is youth, but when we ask for power, real power, not just a seat at the table, they panic. Sound familiar? It should. It was the fate of the GOP during the Tea Party era. History sure does rhyme. If you're still not convinced the Democrats have a system-wide problem, let's take a step back and look at the machine itself. Cover-ups at the top, purges of the young, donor classes clenching their wallets, unions watching their own candidates get boxed out. Publicly, the party says, we're one big family. Privately, it's Game of Thrones with fewer swords and much more email. Let's talk organizing summer, the DNC's attempt at a revival. We're told, don't worry, the base will come roaring back. According to leaked texts published by Politico, local organizers begged for resources for months, only to get slogans and Zoom calls with 80-year-olds daring us to knock on more doors. From a July 2025 LA Times piece, and I quote, some Democratic precinct captains say national leadership failed to listen to reports of slipping enthusiasm for months. Their advice, get out of the bubble. According to a focus group cited in The Atlantic, voters feel talked at, not to, and have begun tuning out. Now, even the traditional press has caught on. From a New York Times editorial after the summer campaign meetings, and I quote, dissent is not a threat. If the Democratic Party treats every internal critic as an enemy, it will soon find itself outnumbered by them. The Republicans aren't winning by default. They're just waking up every morning, eating their cereal, and watching the other guys set themselves on fire. This isn't about one candidate or 1 year. When a party's crisis of confidence, transparency, and grassroots engagement hits this level, you risk a long-run slide from major player to sideshow. If you think all of this is just popcorn fodder for the other side, think again. Because democracy needs real, robust competition. Otherwise, you don't get checks and balances. You get unchecked power, apathy, and a vacuum into which only cynicism and special interests flow. The danger of the Democratic collapse isn't just another red sweep. It's that millions of voters disengage. When one side is seen as a joke, the other never has to moderate, adapt, or even govern completely. Monopolies are bad, whether it's big tech or big politics, wrote an op-ed in the Washington Examiner. If the DNC becomes a shell, the GOP won't improve. They'll just relax. Australians have a saying, it's not cricket without two sides of the field. Well, in the U.S., our democracy isn't a real game if only one team shows up with bats and gloves and the other forgot their shoes. And those who lose? You, me, and everyone who expects a government to be challenged and kept accountable. From The Economist July editorial, and I quote, "If the trend continues, the U.S. could see record low midterm turnout, a rise of the third party, and ultimately even more polarization. The rot seeps through the whole system." Do you really want lawmakers who never face a serious fight for your vote? Who have no reason to listen because they rule by default? Of course not. The answer, whether you're left, right, or just tired, has to be real, competitive, honest opposition. Let's not end on all doom. Political fortunes can turn around if you have the backbone to get real. First, Democrats need transparency, not just therapy. Admit failure, open up to real primaries, let the next generation try new ideas before 2028. Ditch the tendency to close ranks at any sign of turbulence. As Slate's podcast put it recently, if you're going to lose, at least lose with a vision for the future, and not just the past. Second, get out of DC. The Salvation Army does a better job listening to real people than lobbyists-run policy panels. Put money into field operations, not just consultant pockets. Actually knock those doors. In Sheboygan, not just Manhattan and the Beltway. Third, policy time. Enough broad slogans and damn hashtags. Offer actual detailed reforms on housing, debt, wages, and family policy. Stuff that means something to the real folks, not just Twitter mobs. Fourth, let the media be media. Stop whispering what not to ask. As the Associated Press's public editor put it, and I quote, "News should make every politician nervous, not just the ones from across the aisle." Finally, embrace real disagreement. Host open conventions. Encourage primaries. If too many leaders get their feelings hurt, sorry, you're absolutely in the wrong business. Can it happen by 2026? I wouldn't bet the house on it. But politics is full of surprises if you face the facts and respond with more than just spin. Well, that's a wrap on another unapologetic episode of O'Connor's Right Stand. We've torn through the polling carnage, the Biden cover-up, the DNC's generational fumble, and a wave of denial that's led straight into a credibility abyss. We heard from frustrated voters, skeptical journalists, and public servants who feel stranded by their party's own dysfunction. This isn't just a chance for conservatives to break out the popcorn. It's a moment for all of us to realize what happens when any political movement trades honesty for image, stifles dissent, and forgets the people who built it from the ground up. Our democracy works best when both sides fight, openly, honestly, even messily, for your votes and your trust. If one party collapses into irrelevance, the rot seeps into everything: policy, debate, and ultimately the lives of average-day Americans. So next time you see a Democratic leader promise, quote-unquote, big change on a bumper sticker, remember, change starts with looking in the mirror and telling the truth. Not just for one cycle, but for good. If today's show made you think, or got you riled up, let me know at O'Connor Stand on X. Share it and forward it to every friend that needs a dose of no-spin reality. And if you're a disgruntled Dem, hey, the first step is admitting you've got the problem. Until Tuesday, this is John O'Connor, holding the line, calling out the BS, and fighting for a country that deserves better than this clown show. Stay skeptical, stay fierce, and never stop demanding the truth, no matter who tries to hide it.